In this video I'm going to be making a removable baffle for a Link Supertone Master metal mouthpiece. I previously refaced this earlier this year. The client wanted it open quite a bit. It started its life as a 6, but now it's been opened up to 120. Fairly large tip opening for a Link. So he played on it for a while, and now he says he'd like a little more projection. That would be my preference too. Links are a good design for a small group, small combo, or blending in a wind ensemble, but if you're going to be playing any big band music with it, you're not going to be able to, it's going to be harder to drive to balance the whole sax section and anchor the big band. So normally I start with, before I make a baffle, I play around with shapes using blue tack. I already know kind of the shape I want in this piece, so I'm just going to go ahead and make it. To get started, since it's going to be a removable baffle, I have to grease up the inside of the mouthpiece a little bit with petroleum jelly. I'm going to cast it in place here and then pop it out. So, okay, that should be enough. And then I'm using a stick epoxy, quick aluminum. It's made by Polymeric Systems. It's very similar to my other favorite one, which is OT, which is, I think, made by the same company because it comes in the same kind of container. So, carve off a slice. It's got, the two parts are in every slice. If there's any hard specks in it, you want to get them out, because they're sometimes, if it's not a new stick, you'll have little pieces of, they feel like sand grains, but they're dry epoxy. Alright, so that's a start. Cut that up. So, then you just gotta knead this. This is a, it says quick, so it's a 5-minute epoxy. Gotta thoroughly mix it, and after a few minutes it gets warm. It's got an exothermal reaction going on that kind of creates its own heat, so it sets quickly. So that's more than I need. Eyeballing it. I need the size of a medium large green pea. Okay. Now, normally I could just press it out in the mouthpiece, but since it's greased up, I've got to kind of rough out the shape a little better first, because it's going to slip and slide a little bit. So, yeah. I don't know, hopefully that'll be big enough. Okay, let's just get it roughed into place. I got to clean my hands a little. Got a wet wipe. Then I got to get my tools out and start shaping it before it gets too set up. So, now the other thing that helps is actually lubricating the top of it. So I'll have to do that soon. After I'm sure that that's a rough size that I want. I don't know. I think a little more. I don't like to oversize them, but if you do, especially since it's removable, you can take it out and file or sand it down without risking messing up the mouthpiece. rails. Okay, that's shaping up. I'm going to get a little bit of petroleum jelly on my tool now. Got inside it so that you don't have any high spots. Just making a little wedge here. I use a wedge most of the time in Bari. Sometimes a hump. You know, you can round out the back corner of it. It's a little crooked in the front. I could trim that now, or I could sand it off later. It's not that hard to trim. Don't want the edges to be too sharp if it's a removable baffle. I'll probably blunt it a little bit after I take it out because it makes it very fragile. But this particular link had a nice kind of a short baffle in the front before it dropped off, so I'm leaving that as it is and then building off of that, going further into the and after this, if all goes well, I'll play test it for you with it in and out. I usually keep fussing with it until it starts getting set up. Actually, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, the back of it's a little rough, but that's something you can clean up after you pop it out. Now, because it's a link, there's curved sidewalls. That particular geometry doesn't allow you to make a removable baffle that wedges into place. Straight sidewalls do. You've seen maybe the Runyon spoilers, they wedge into place without any kind of adhesive. So we're probably going to have to use I use a little dab of this blue tack underneath it, and it kind of holds it in place. But normally a removable baffle with straight sidewalls will wedge into place from this direction, but actually on links they wedge in from the other direction, or they don't really wedge in very well at all. So when I try to pop this out, after it starts setting up a little, I'm going to push it backwards. It's moving, but not dislodging. There we go. Drop it right through. You can see it's the basic shape that we contour. After that gets a little harder, I'll clean the edges up. So now take the Vaseline out of there. Clean the baffle. It probably has a little bit of Vaseline on it. Now, this is not something that you can pop in and out every day. You know, where it comes real thin is pretty fragile. So, you know, it's something you leave in for or leave out for long periods of time. So you want a different sound. Okay, like I said, a little bit of poster hanging putty. It's like chewing gum consistency. You got to make sure your inside of your mouthpiece is dry for this to really adhere. So I'm going to get a rag in there and clean that up a little. I'll put a little bit of that and smear it on the back. And this stuff gets pretty dirty over time too, so you just get a little bit more. It's not expensive. I bought a package probably 8 years ago and I'm still working on it. Okay, to wedge that into place, like I said, it has to go from the rear up front. Get that kind of place right about there is where I had it made. Okay. I'll clean that up a little prettier later. Hear my phone ringing. So there you have it. It has a little bit more bite than the sound before. It still has the character of the Link, but I think it's a much better mouthpiece now.